right, welcome everybody to Local Study Group. We've had a session a couple of weeks ago with Crowden. It was a very wonderful, informative, informal demonstration of the interesting cloud-based tool known as Crowden. I think a lot of us learned a lot. I know I sure did. And today we're going to be looking at, I guess, Nora, I call it the godmother of all tools, the grandmother of all tools. I don't know. But this is going to be Trados, a demonstration and some tips from a very, very wonderful human being, generous person, and awesome trainer, Nora Diaz. Nora, say hi.
Hi, Marina. Hi, everybody. Thank you for the wonderful introduction, and just give me the word and we'll get started.
Sounds good. So without further ado, I'm going to put the spotlight on Nora. Welcome, Nora.
Thank you, Marina. And thank you, everybody, for being here. I see a lot of friends connected to the call. So thank you for taking the time to be here. So we're going to be talking about Trados today. And maybe you can let me know in the chat whether you have used Trados in the past and whether you consider yourself a beginner, intermediate, or advanced user. And you could also tell me if you are mostly a translator, a localizer, a project manager. So I think it would be interesting because Marina, I have to tell everybody that Marina has put so much care and love into putting this session together that we met yesterday. And she explained to me that we should also address features for project managers. And I think that's a very valuable contribution. So we will be doing that. I will be keeping an eye on the chat, but this is going to be mostly a demonstration. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. So this is what we're going to be doing today. 1 hour is not nearly enough to get familiar with Trados to the level where you can feel comfortable and confident using it, but it is enough to get an overview of the main features of the tool. So I have divided this presentation into 2 parts. We will go over this PDF with demos, and then I will give you some tips for those of you who may be a bit more advanced, some tips and tricks. So let me have a quick look in the chat here. All right, so I see a good mix of different levels and everything. Okay, wonderful. So here it is. This PDF, I should start by saying, is called 10 Easy Steps. Translate a file in 10 easy steps. And this is actually included in Trados, but not a lot of people know of its existence. So you can actually find it in your version of Trados Studio. And the 10 steps to work on a translation are, and I am just going to go over them very quickly, and then we will move on to the demo. First, you open a file, and I apologize for the terrible circle there. First, you open a file. Then I'm going to use an arrow, that's better. First, you open a file, and you can do that by opening a file as a single file or by creating a project. So today in the demo, I'm going to create a project. It's important that you use a TM because after all, this is the heart of all CAT tools, a translation memory, which is basically a database file where all of your translations are stored for future reference. Then you tweak the settings to your liking so that whatever you want to do will be reflected in your settings, and we will see how that can be done. But basically in your settings, you can add resources like, for example, term bases, which are your glossaries that you use when you're translating, auto-suggest dictionaries, or even machine translation. After you have done that, up to here, these are the steps that you would follow to set up a project. So all of this, okay, that came out terrible. All of these are things that you do when you are preparing a project, whether you are a project manager or a translator. So you open your file, you use a TM, and you tweak the settings. It's possible that if you are a translator in the TEP chain, in the translation, editing, proofreading chain, you won't actually have to do these steps. You get the file already prepared. And if you are a PM, a project manager, then you only do these 3 steps and then you send the file over to your translation team. And then we get to the translation step. So the first step in translation is you start translating and you check for translation matches. You check whether your translation memory has any content that you can reuse as it is or with changes that you make to it. So that's indicated by a percentage number where that shows you how similar the segment that you're going to translate is to what is already in your translation memory. And that can be things that were already in your translation memory before, or you just entered a couple of segments ago to your translation memory. You also, in addition to translation memory matches, you also get term-based matches. And you see this red line here, that's indicating that's how it is highlighted. When you have in your term-based, in your terminology glossary, you have a term that is matched in your segment that will be highlighted for you to enter it quickly. You also have the advantage of the program, Trados Studio, recognizing tokens. So tokens are things such as tags or numbers or dates or measurements and so on. And you simply insert them by pressing Control, comma. We're going to see an example. Tags are these purple things that you see here, and they are used to indicate formatting. And so it's important to transfer all source tags correctly. And again, these are translation steps, right? These are things that are done by the translator. Once you are done with your translation, you confirm the segment, and confirming is the step that actually commits the translation to the translation memory. So when you confirm your segment by pressing Control Enter, you are taken to the next segment, and the segment you just confirmed is saved to your translation memory database. Once you are done with that, or actually throughout the process, you can preview your translation because, of course, your translation file is presented to you in these 2 columns. You're not looking at the original file, but you can keep a preview going to see what it's going to be looking like. That's especially useful, for example, for files like PowerPoint, where you may want to move things around a little during the translation. And when you're done with all of that, as a translator, it's a good idea to verify your translation. It's called verification. It's the quality assurance step in Trados Studio. And that is actually the last thing you do before either saving your translation to the target file. So let's say your original file was a Word file or a PowerPoint or an Excel, then you save it to that original file format again and send it to your client. Or if you're working with an LSP, with an agency that sends you the bilingual file, what you're seeing here, then you simply send them either the bilingual file or the return package back. If you are a project manager, this is where you would pick up the process again. So you prepare the file, send it for translation. You're not involved in these steps here, but when you get the file back, you want to run a QA check to make sure that everything is okay according to your settings. So you verify the translation, and project managers either at this point conclude the process and save the target file to send to the final client, or they redirect the file to whoever is next in the process, in the translation process, the reviewer, the editor, or the proofreader. So translators and project managers work within the same interface. They just do different steps. Now, Marina asked me, she was telling me yesterday how when she was working with Trados, sometimes all she needed to do was get an analysis to prepare a quote for the client. And I don't know if that's something that you have to do, but that is done after this step. So an analysis is created right after, let me try and get my arrow here. Right after the first step, after you open the file, that is when the analysis is created. So the analysis is created after the file is converted from the original format to a bilingual format. And analysis is just a term that is used to say that the original file is compared to the translation memory to see if there is any level of matching. Because, for example, if your file has 100 words, and if you quote by the word, then you quote 100 words. But when you prepare, let's say, either a quote or a PO for your translation team, you also want to know what kind of leverage you're getting from your translation memory. So you want those 100 words to be compared to the translation memory, and maybe the analysis comes back and says, yes, you have 100 words, but 50 of those words are repetitions. Now 20 of those are 99% matches and things like that. Now we're not going to get into a quoting discussion here, or whether you should use the leverage from a TM to offer discounts or to benefit from that, which I think the latter should be true. But that's just something for us to know. So this is basically the process, what it takes to translate a file. And the next page of this PDF is a list of shortcuts, common shortcuts that you can use. So my advice would be download this PDF. Actually, I think Marina is going to be sharing it with everybody. And that is a very helpful, right, Marina? You're sharing it?
Actually, Stefan Visseri put the link into the chat. Can everybody see that? Yeah, Trados.com, download, translate a file in 10 easy steps. So check out the chat, and everybody, you can save the chat to your desktop. Go ahead, Nora.
Thank you, Marina. So here we are in Trados Studio, and let's now see how we translate a file. So I'm going to start by showing you the file that I'm going to open for translation. And this is the file. It's very simple. I just added some formatting so I can demonstrate some things and a little picture there. And it's just a few random sentences about CAD tools. Now, this is a PDF file, and I decided to use a PDF file because I wanted to say that with the exception of PDF files, every file that you use in Trados Studio, that you bring into Trados Studio, will be converted to the same format after you're done with it. So if you have an IDML file from InDesign, you end up with an IDML file. If you start out with a Word file, you end up with a Word file. PDFs are the only exception to that. You start with a PDF, you end up with a Word file, because PDFs are by nature non-editable files. So we're going to start here, and I apologize if this feels, I will try not to go too fast, but it may feel like it's a little faster for those of you who are completely new to the tool. I will start by creating a project, and I will just go here to the projects view and click on new project. And while that wizard is opening, I will say that in Trados, since Trados 2021, you can create projects on the cloud or locally. This is going to be a local project. So I'm just going to call it Log Tools Study Group. And then, so you give it a name, and then you add your file. So I'm just going to drag and drop the file here, and you can add as many files as you want. Select your languages, click Next. This is for, to set who the customer is, the client is, and the dates. I'm going to skip that. And then we get to this station, which is called Translation Resources. And this is where you either use or create a memory. I'm going to create a new translation memory. And because I have already selected my languages, they are selected here as well. And I just give it a name, click Finish, and the translation memory is creating. It is created, but it's empty for now, right? Then I'm going to go Next, and now this is the place where I can use existing term bases or create a new term base. So I'm just going to create a new term base. So we're starting from scratch here, right? Normally, that's not what happens. I'm going to use a predefined bilingual glossary template, say Next, call it Log Tools Glossary. And then I have to select my languages. German and English are the defaults, but I don't know any German, so I'm going to go with Spanish. And then just next, and finish, and that's it. So this is actually as far as I need to get. There are other things that I can modify here, but if I want to do this really quickly, I can just say Finish, and the project is created. I can always go back and change the settings of my project. But for now, I just created that project and I'm going to open it by double clicking on it. Here is the file. You remember it's this PDF that I showed you here, but now it's going to be presented like this. I'm going to double click on the file there to open it. And it's not what you're seeing now. That's something that I'm going to use later. But for now, we're waiting for it to open. So there it is. Here is the file, and this is how it is presented. And I'm seeing the tags that indicate the formatting, but I'm also seeing the formatting. These are all customizable settings. I can start by translating this. So you can see as I start translating, I start getting some help. See that what is popping up now is called an auto suggest, and that comes from something that is called auto text. So just to clarify, auto suggest are these automatic suggestions that come up, and they can come from different sources. In order to see where they can come from, you can go to your options and go to auto suggest. And these are all the possible options. The auto suggestions can come from fragment matches, from term bases, from translation memory and automated translation, if I had an engine added, from auto suggest dictionaries, auto text, that's the one that came up now. And this is an additional app that is called the regex match auto suggest provider. So I'm just going to say okay for now. When I'm done with the translation, this area here is the translation memory results window. It's empty for now because the memory is empty. But when I'm done with that translation and I confirm it by pressing Control Enter, if I go back now to segment 1, each of these is a segment. If I go back to segment 1, now you will see that the translation memory is showing me results because this was saved to the translation memory. So now I have, this is saved. My translation memory right now has only one translation unit, this one that I confirmed. But look at what happened here in segment 10. Segment 10 is what is called a repetition of segment 1. And so as soon as I confirm segment 1, segment 10 gets translated and confirmed as well, because it's exactly the same. Now, if I go to segment 2, you will see another feature that is great from Trados Studio, which is called fragment matches. And look at this thing here on the right. Normally this, by the way, this window is normally up here, but I moved it to the bottom here. That's another great thing about Trados. You can move the layout to whatever is convenient for you. So I get to this segment that says CAT tools are used by translators all over the world. And because this little part, CAT tools, was actually translated in the segment before, this is a fragment, or this translation, CAT tools, is now a fragment of the new translation segment. And so it is offered here for me. So when I start here, if I start typing, you see I get these suggestions that come from here. And these are called fragment matches. This is wonderful because the program is extracting those fragments as you work and presenting them for you as you need them. And just by clicking enter, the whole phrase gets inserted. So I'm going to go back here. Just like that, okay. And then again, confirm, and we have a repetition here, so it gets confirmed. But now look at what happened in segment 3. As soon as I confirmed segment 2, segment 3 gets populated, but it doesn't get confirmed. See how the little pencil is still blue and not green? That's because this is what's called a fuzzy match. A fuzzy match is has a certain degree of similarity to what is stored in the translation memory, but it's not exactly the same. So in this case, it's a 94% similarity or a 94% fuzzy match. Up here in the translation results window, I can see what is different, right? So now in the new segment that I have here, I see that there is a new word that is reviewers. I see it in green here. And the word that was deleted was the word translators. And so that is I can glance quickly over there and I see that, oh, okay. So I'm going to use revisores. And so I see that that's what I need to change. Now, did you notice that this was orange? And as soon as I started typing, it became transparent. This is important information for project managers because as a project manager, you open up a translated file and you can quickly see if the translator edited the fuzzy matches or simply confirmed them as they were. This is an edited fuzzy match. That's why it's no longer orange, right? And then I confirm that, and it keeps going. Now, you remember from the PDF that we had, it said that you can have tokens. Here is an example of some tokens. I start typing here. When I get to this point, I see that this number here is underlined in blue, or the manual says in purple, but it looks blue to me. So that is a token, and that means that that is an element that is interchangeable. And in addition to it being interchangeable, it can also be placed very quickly with something called quick placement. If I press Control, comma, I get this list of tokens from the segment, in this case, only one, then press Enter, and that's it. That is wonderful. Maybe if you have a small number, you don't need to worry about that. But for bigger numbers or other tokens, it's very, very useful. So I'm just going to finish. Before I confirm this segment and show you what's going to happen, I'm going to add a term to my term base. Remember, I created a term base, a glossary. It's empty for now. So what I'm going to do now is I want to add the word dollars and its translation to the term base. And this window here is for term recognition. I don't have anything in the glossary right now, so nothing is getting recognized. I select both, right click on one of them, or of course, use the shortcut and select this quick add new term. And this is for interactively adding terminology to the term base as you work. But of course, you can also import, for example, if you have an Excel glossary, you can import your entire Excel glossary to a term base. It's very easy to do. And so now I have the term being recognized here. And in fact, if I deselect that, you can see that I have that red line that I had talked about now on top of the word dollars. And if I hadn't written the word dollars here, as soon as I type the D, I get the translation from the term base. And I know it's coming from the term base because it has the same symbol. See that icon? That is the little green book with the A and Z. And then just enter and it gets inserted. Now I'm going to confirm segment 4, and please look at what happens to segment 5. Did you see that? So segment 5, this feature is called auto propagation. It means the program can identify that both segments are exactly the same, except for the placeable, for the token, the number. And so it replaces the number with the new token, and it gives me that translation. So this is for, it's a productivity feature. We move on to segment 6, and well, I'm not going to go into that one. Let's try segment 8 for now. So segment 8 has tags. These are formatting tags. So if I want to make something bold, I need to add the tags to it. In order to add the tags, for those of you who are already users of Trados, here comes a little trick. I'm going to what I did there, that's a text expansion that comes from somewhere else. But I'm going to translate first and then add the tags. Now notice as I start typing the translation for CAT tools, I keep getting the suggestion that comes from the fragments that were created earlier. Now I need to add my tags. So I go and select the text that needs to be enclosed by the tags, and I have three options to add the tags. The first option, and the most commonly known, is using Control, comma. Control, comma gives me a drop down of tokens and tags. So I simply use my arrow keys to go to the tags, click enter or hit enter, and the tags get added like that. That's one way. That's the most common one. Now I'm going to use a different one. If you select the text again, now I'm going to press the control key and I'm going to click the left button on my mouse on top of the tags here, and they will get applied here. So I'm pressing control, click here, and see the tags get applied here. So control and click here, the tags get applied to the selection. And here comes the third trick, and I always give a warning with this one. It's my favorite, but it's also, it doesn't work for everybody because this key combination, this shortcut, causes the screen to rotate on some computers. If that happens, just keep pressing the keys until it rotates to the right position and then forget about the shortcut because you won't be able to use it. But here it is. If you press Control, Alt, and then the right arrow key, like that. Do it again. So repeat the shortcut, Control, Alt, right arrow key. Like that, right? And so that is my preferred way of adding tags because it's fast. I don't have to select anything from a drop-down menu and I don't have to use the mouse. If I confirm that, then we can keep going. And here we have several groups of tags and it's just a matter of adding the tags. But if you do Control Alt, right, then you keep, well, I'll show you. So I just copied that over. I'm going to remove all the tags. And if I want to add tags here, I do Control Alt right. The next group of tags needs to go on translation memory. So I do Control Alt right. And you see the highlight on the left of the tags that are going to be applied. And the last term basis is next. And what I'm doing is pressing Control Alt and then the right arrow key several times. And actually for the last one, I usually do Control Alt and the left arrow key, which picks up the last one. So I'll just confirm that. And this is basically what we have. Now, if we go back to our PDF here, and how are we doing with the time? Okay, I think we're okay. So we have created the file by opening it. We have created and used the TM. In the settings, we added a term base. We have been checking the translation matches. We have the term-based matches, which is the term that I added for the word dollars. We have been inserting recognized tokens, transferring the source tags, translating and confirming. What we haven't done so far is preview the translation. So let's do that now. We're going to go and enable the preview. So I'm going to save the file just to make sure that we don't lose this. And you can enable the preview if you go to the View tab up here and you have a little eye there that is for the preview. I'm just going to click on that and it's going to open here. This is a PDF file, remember, but the PDF gets converted to Word first. So if I want to have the preview, I have to click here to generate the initial preview in HTML form. If you have other files, like for example, PowerPoint or Word, you have the option to have an HTML preview here, or you can have it open the original program, open the preview in the original program. So here is the preview, and that's what it looks like so far, right? That's the target. And the one that is highlighted right now is where my cursor is. So my cursor is in segment 12 and that gets highlighted. If I go here, that highlights something else. Now, that is not looking so great because, for example, here, look at this. Yeah, so that's it's not a great preview, but at least it gives you an idea. You can also do a source preview. That's the source. And a side-by-side preview where you can see source and target side by side. So this is the preview that you can use, and you can do a preview in Microsoft Word, which will, of course, you select it there. Click here to generate the initial preview, and that's going to open Word, and I will bring it back when it's ready. if we go back to or actually, oh, it's open. So let me bring it over to this monitor here and show you. So that's what it looks like. See, it doesn't look like the preview, right? It looks like the original file, right? So there it is. And I'm going to close that. So that is only the preview. It's not the target file. You could save it as a target if you wanted to. So if we go back to our PDF here we see that now we have to verify the translation. The verification features in Trados Studio are actually very, very powerful. But I always say, be very suspicious if you run the verification or the quality assurance and you get no error messages. For example, let's see what happens. If I go to the review tab up here and I click here, verify, or I can also press F8. I'm getting some errors here because of course I have some untranslated segments, right? Segment has not been translated. That's the only error that I have. But what if I add, for example, let me add an extra space there, extra blank space, and run the verification again and see if it catches it. It's not. So don't believe that just because you click verify and you don't get any errors, everything is perfect. What's happening actually is you don't have the right settings. So whenever you create a project from scratch, you have to go into project settings, and I'm going to do that now by going here, project settings, and find the verification area here and make sure that you go into the QA checker and you have the things that you want to be checked. So for example, for punctuation, if I want to check for the source and target end in the same punctuation, checking for Spanish punctuation, checking for unintentional spaces before some punctuation, checking for multiple spaces, that's the error that I introduced, right? Or, things like that. So you have a number of things here. You also have a word list where you can enter words that you don't want to see in your translations and get a warning if that happens. Regular expressions, which I'll explain briefly at the end of today's presentation, and so on. Once you have everything the way you like it, you make sure to save it into a QA checker profile. And when you have a new project, you simply import the settings of your QA checker profile. So you don't have to go and check every little thing every time. I'm going to click OK. And this time, if I click verify again, now I get a warning saying, hey, there are some extra blank spaces here. So be very suspicious when you run the verification and you're not getting any errors, because we know that it's at least false positives you should be getting. So I'm going to, when you fix the error and confirm the segment, the error goes away. Now, after you have done all that, you verify the translation. And by the way, if you are the project manager, you can set up the verification settings, the QA settings, before you send the project to the translator. So you decide what gets checked. And you can also require that in the package that you prepare for translators, that the verification be run before the package can be sent back. And if translators try to send you back the package without running the verification, they get a message saying, no, hey, you're supposed to run the verification. So after you have done all that, you are ready to save the translation. Now, I didn't complete the translation here, but I don't want to take any more time entering the translation there. So I'm just going to prepare the target file the way it is without entering any translations there. And what happens when you do that is that any segments that are not translated are going to be transferred over in the source language to the target file. So it's not like these sentences are going to disappear. They're going to be in English. That's all that's going to happen. So in order to produce the target file, I'm going to, again, save the file here. And you have two options. You can go to File, Save Target As, or you can go to this thing that is called Batch Tasks. And from the Batch Tasks, you click Generate Target Translations, or if you click Finalize, you also get everything gets saved to the translation memory, everything that hadn't been saved, and the target translation is generated. So I'm going to click Finalize here and just give it a moment. And in the meantime, I want to see if we have any questions. Because this thing it's going to take a second or two.
Yes, we do. Do you see, whoops, now my screen went blank. Take a look. There's a question about cloud.
Yes, I
From
see it.
Helena.
Okay, I'll get to that. I'll get to that. So let me close
Okay.
this then. This is it's done, it's finished. And now where is my file, right? Because I said create the target translation, but where is it? So I need to go back to my project. And there is this, select the file, and there is this option here that says explore containing folder. And under explore containing folder, that's where you will find the translated file. So here's the file, and that's, as I said, originally it was a PDF, but now it's a Word file because it gets converted. So here is the translated file. And this is the bilingual file. So if your project manager wants the bilingual file, you send them this. If they want the target file, you send them this. Most of the time, they will want both, so you send them both. Okay, so that's in a nutshell how you work with Trados. We have some tips and tricks coming up later, but first I want to address this question. The question that Helena has is, I feel that creating projects in the cloud is really difficult. Do you have any guides on how to do that? You're right. It's not as straightforward as creating a local project, but there are some, if you go to the RWS website on recorded webinars, you will find some webinars that will guide you step by step. But my advice is this. You want to first, and just for those of you who are wondering what the cloud is, I probably should show you. This is a cloud project. You see how most projects here have a folder, right? But this one has a cloud. If I click on that, it takes me to these files, and I'm going to select one of them and say, here I have these options to open them in different places. I want to open it in the cloud. So I'm going to click here. I could open the file here, but I want to show you what it looks like in the cloud. So I'm going to press open in a cloud environment. Let me make sure that it works. Open. Yeah. I don't know if I had refreshed okay. I'm not signed in. So when you have your license, you get, give me a second then. When you have your license, I have no idea why I got signed out.
Oh dear.
You get also access to the cloud, and so you just enter your credentials, and you have access in the cloud to the cloud version. And when you want to create a project in the cloud, it's a good idea to first make absolutely sure that you have set up all of your resources on the cloud. And now it's opening. So let me go here. This is a browser, just a regular browser, and your project will open in the cloud. So first, go to your browser-based cloud account and make sure that you have set up all of your resources there, and then it will be easier to create cloud-based projects. Otherwise, the first few times are going to be a headache when you create them. This is what it looks like in the crowd, not the crowd, but the cloud. And for example, if I want to open this is the management environment for the cloud, and there is also an online editor. So if I click on that and say open in the online editor, it opens the file in the Trados online editor, which is this one here. And that is slightly different from the desktop editor. It has fewer features, but it's also a cleaner look. And it has a feature that does not exist in the desktop editor, which is the top bottom view. If you go here to view, instead of going left to right, you can click here on horizontal. That's and cool. Now you have top and bottom, right? Oh, so let me make that bigger. So that's segment 1, and you see it like this, and you go to segment 2, and it looks like that. So yes, it is slightly more complicated than creating projects here locally, but invest some time to set up your resources in the cloud first, and then it will be easier to do. Well, Marina, if we don't have any more questions, maybe I could move on to some of the tips that I wanted to share for those of you who are already users of Trados Studio and may have found this very boring. Oh, but before I do,
Yes,
let
go
me
ahead.
just say that the analysis for project managers, where is the analysis? So the analysis for example, when we
Yes.
created the project, when we created this was our project.
Yes.
If you want to see the analysis, you go to the reports view, and here, this is created automatically when you create your project, and the
Yes.
analysis is here, right?
Right.
So that's the analysis.
Okay.
If you click on Analyze Files, this is the report, and this is the information that you want to take. So, for example, there were 63 words that were repetitions in that file, and 80 words were new for translation. If you don't want to have to create a project to get an analysis, I would suggest that you go to the App Store. RWS has a wonderful App Store, and go to the App Store and find an app that is called Analyze. Trados Analyze, this one here. And this is an app that you downloaded. It's a standalone app, and you just say, please analyze these files with this translation memory, and you get an analysis without creating a project. So that is just wonderful.
Perfect.
Let me just close that. That's the App Store. And to access the App Store, you can go up here, or you can go to the Welcome view, and you have it here as well. But let me go to the projects view for now again. And I have this little project that has many files, as you can see. And I'm going to close everything because I want to show you the first trick. When you have a project that has multiple files like this, you don't have to open each file separately. If you do, you can do that. And if you open each file by double clicking, you're going to have the files open in tabs, right? In separate tabs in the editor. But if you wanted to open them all together as one document without merging them really, but just to see them all together, select all the files or the files that you want to open together, and then click Open for Translation. And this is called a virtual merge. And that is going to show you all of the files there. And these are all the files, right? Just like that. And so the orange tags show you where one file ends and the next file begins. And you can navigate the files by clicking here on the left, or you can simply, scroll up and down. So that's called the virtual merge. Now, the second thing I wanted to show you, and in order to do that, I actually want to go back to our original file. I'm going to open it again. Is the advanced display filter. Trados and other CAD tools have great filters, but the advanced display filter, Trados has two filters, the basic display filter and the advanced display filter. The advanced display filter is just wonderful. And I want to show you how it works. In order to access the advanced display filter, you go to the View tab, and you have it here, Advanced Display Filter 2.0. Normally, it has a link here, like a tab. It's a self-hiding tab. So just click on that, and it will open. I have it here. I have it pinned here because I use it so much. Now, what does the advanced display filter do? I'll show you. For example, let's say that I want to find all the segments that are repetitions and are already confirmed. So I would go to Filter Attributes, and I say, show me the repetitions. Double click on repetitions there. These are the criteria. All the repetitions that are already confirmed. So that's going to be translated. So apply the filter. And that's going to show me only the repetitions that are already confirmed. If I want to invert the filter, and that is show me exactly the opposite, everything that is not repetitions that are already confirmed, I simply click here where it says reverse, and that will show me everything that is not a repetition already confirmed. I'm going to clear the filter. Not only that, but let's say that I want to go by colors, and I want to see all the segments that have text that is red. Apply the filter, and that will show me only the segments that have red text. And so I can do a combination of different criteria for my filter. I'm going to clear the filter. In the content tab, I can say, for example, show me the filters that say cat tool in the source, and apply the filter. And so these are the ones that have cat tool in the source. But now I want to see cat tool in the source and then the translation in the target. In the target, so that will exclude these, right, that are not translated. So apply the filter, and now I can only see the ones that have both criteria. And I can combine criteria from several tabs. So the advanced display filter, wonderful. Now, the last thing I wanted to share with you is the fact that Trados Studio, if you know regular expressions, it's very powerful because you can use regular expressions in many different places. But I just want to show you what they are and how they are used, for example, in the filter. So I'm going to use the regular filter, go to the review tab. This is the regular filter, and regular expressions are enabled by default. So regular expressions are, if you are not familiar with them yet, I would encourage you to try and learn a little about them, because they will really take your translation or project management game to the next level. And these are little formulas that find patterns. So for example, let's say that I want to find that I have all of these segments, and I realize that in some segments, there is an extra blank space at the beginning, and I don't want that, right? So I see that there is an extra blank space here, and I say, oh, I'm sure there must be others where there are blank spaces at the beginning, but it would take me forever to visually, manually find them. So how can I find them with a regex, a regular expression? These are this means, this thing that I'm putting up here means the beginning of the segment. That means it's a delimiter, the beginning of the segment, and that means a space. So the beginning of the segment followed by a space. And I don't want to find that in the source, but I want to find it in the target. So I'm going to click enter there. And now I see all the segments, or only the segments that have a blank space or more at the beginning of the segment, right? And I can fix that. And if I fix that and once again run the filter, I should not find anything now, right? So that's one example. Another example is, for example, I saw very quickly here that there are some errors there where some segments end with a capital letter when they shouldn't. And I don't want to have to be looking for them manually. So now I want to say, if I have a capital letter at the end of the segment, I need to see the segment. So that's one capital letter, A to Z, and then the $ means the end of the segment. And I want to make that case sensitive because I want it to be capitalized. So I'm going to, and that is going to show me the segments that have a capital letter at the end of the segment, right? And then I fix that. And if I run the filter again, I should not find anything now. So that's the kind of thing that you can do with regular expressions. You can do things like, for example, find me all the segments that don't begin, that means that don't begin with a letter, A to Z in the source. So find me everything that doesn't begin with a letter. And you can see, oh, sorry, not case sensitive. And you can see these are all segments that begin either with numbers or punctuation marks, but none of them begin with a letter or with a space there. So this very, very important and very helpful. If you're interested in learning more about regular expressions, I would, and Marina, I don't know if this would be a good time to mention the Translator's Toolbox.
Yes.
But I have a long chapter. I'm going to put the link in the chat here I have a long chapter in the book that I co-authored with Jo Seche that is called a very long chapter on, or several sections on regular expressions where you can learn how to use all of that. And with this, I have come to the end of my demo, and I'm ready to take any questions. So let me see if I can stop sharing there and see we have some questions. So there's a question about, can you maybe talk us through that subtitling feature embedded on Trados, or is it an add-on? Well, I don't have anything prepared, and it takes, you have to prepare some things, but it's it is an add-on, but it's free. So just go to the App Store and download something that's called the Trados subtitling plugin, and you will be able to open SRT files or VTT files where you exclude all the timing information and you see only the subtitles to be translated. And you can even open your video and run verification or quality assurance on your subtitles to make sure that you don't exceed characters per second and so on. And you set your own settings. So it's free. Download it from the App Store. And then Ana Leticia was asking, one question about the cloud, could two translators with their own license work on the same project? Not at the moment, not with the freelance version. It's not possible to share for now. All you can do is share with yourself. So you can create the project and then work on a computer that doesn't have Trados, for example. But in the future, I know that that's on the roadmap. I don't know when, but it's coming. If you work as part of with an LSP that has Trados Live team, then they will assign you to share resources with someone else. Then Gisela is saying, if there is time, could you show us how to use Xbench with Trados? Oh, that's a whole separate topic, and I would love to talk about that, but it takes a long time. So maybe for some other day. Xbench is a separate tool that you can use for quality assurance, for those of you who may not know. Helena was asking, is there a way to batch, find, and replace with a regex? Yes, absolutely. I do it all the time. And she follows up by saying, every time I try it, I just replace the item I search for with the regex. Yes, because here's the quick tip. You can use regular expressions in the find field, but not in the replace field. And so in the replace field, there are some tricks that you can follow for replacements. I would suggest checking out the book. There is a section on replacements in the book. And then let me see what else. Thank you for correcting the link. How common is it to use machine translation in Trados? As common as you want to make it. Users of Trados Studio with a license have access to 500,000 characters per month for free. So 6 million characters for free per year. With what is now being called Language Weaver, or the generic machine translation engine provided by RWS. But in addition to that, you can also add paid machine translation engines with APIs. So if you have DeepL, for example, or if you have a neural Google Translate API, you can add it to Trados Studio. And as long as your information is not confidential and your client is okay with you using machine translation, you can use it to do 3 different things. You can use it to pre-translate your files, or you can use it for interactive translation, or you can use it only for auto-suggest. So those are some things that you can do with machine translation in Trados. And I don't know if we have any other questions.
There's a question from Lamia. Indian languages are challenging in MT.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't really know. I think it depends very much on how well maintained are the machine translation engines. And of course, that depends on the various languages. What I would suggest probably is looking at some of the major research entities who have done translation research on the quality of various machine translation engines for different domains and possibly for different languages. So where there may not be a one-size-fits-all machine translation engine, there may be something that is appropriate for a specific language, but I wouldn't be able to tell you because all I do is English and Spanish. And then Vanessa is asking, why in WordFast is the translation automatic while in Trados I have to put memories in order to work well? I'm not sure what you mean, Vanessa, but could it be that you have a machine translation engine enabled in WordFast? If you have one in Trados, the same thing happens. We didn't have one today. Maria is asking, is it possible to add languages to a project after it's been created? Yes, it is possible. Can you include the machine translation integration with Trados in the course you'll be doing in February? Absolutely. What is the fee for the course in February? That's a question for Marina. MTs for machine translation engines for any highly inflected language is challenging, even Slavic languages. Well, Patrick, yes. And again, I would encourage you to try out several. I can tell you that I do technical translation, and I have tried out several machine translation engines. And I'm not ashamed to say Google's neural machine translation is the winner so far. It's better than I know Google gets a lot of bad rap, but for the neural paid machine translation engine is actually pretty good for is better than others for technical in Spanish. So my suggestion would be try out several to see what works for you. And it was asking, what topics are you going to cover during the February workshop? Marina, I can send you a list of the topics so you can distribute among those who are interested.
Let's do.
And does Trados have language terminal? I think it does. I'm not familiar with it, but I think I've seen it. So I would encourage you, Paul, to check the App Store. The App Store is a wealth of add-ons and plugins. So go and check that out. I think I've seen it there. And that's all, I think.